The sky so far, but I can't lose it.
Let's be innovative. Let's challenge the norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
A new beginning, another opportunity to make a statement. Lionheart celebrates its roots with the car that started it all. 18 races to determine who is the best in the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-per-hour Indy cars inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one Lionheart Speedway Series champion whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. The Lionheart Speedway Series presented by Moser Racing starts now.
Nine months of championship racing come down to just one night. Throughout 2022, 45 drivers have taken the green flag for Lionheart Speedway Series competition. Now it comes down to just a handful of favorites to determine who is the best of the best. Matt Taylor has been a staple within HyperX victory lane this year, with a series high 4 victories. However, the king of consistency has been Powerslide Motorsports' Joe Branch. The Bumblebee heads into California with a series high 13 top 10s and its 15 races counted. And now it's the question, which of those two will be able to come away with a championship? This is Auto Club Speedway, and this is the Gomez Sim Industries Championship 300 presented by Butt Kicker. Hello everyone, and welcome to the final race of Season 2 for the Lionheart Speedway Series presented by Moser Racing, live on RaceSpotTV and ESTV. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premium gaming gear like the legendary Ultra Comfortable cloth-on gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. My name is Justin Prince, and alongside me for this championship finale once more is Andrew Kinsella, while the producer Arjuna Kankipati. Along with the live time and scoring, thanks to our broadcast partners. Keep an eye on your favorite teams and drivers tonight. Let's dive straight into our Graphics Esports Countdown to Green as it comes down to one night, 150 laps at Auto Club Speedway to determine who becomes a champion. Andrew, lots to discuss when it comes to this battle because the championship has taken a long road here all the way from the start of the season in March to today to end off the campaign with the double points triple crown finale here at Auto Club.
What a journey it has been this year, Justin, but it is so good to finally be here in Auto Club again, the traditional finale for the Lionheart Racing Series in all of their various series that they run. And it is just a special venue that we come here to today. It's so wide open. You're going to have all sorts of side-by-side action, all sorts of chaos, and it presents a really, really tough challenge for your championship contenders to survive that chaos and come out with the series crown.
Some of that, of course, coming from Kansas last time out on October 24th to set the stage as part of the schedule set by Next Level Racing. Now let's talk about the driver standings, those presented by Graphics Esports. As mentioned moments ago, Matt Taylor, Joe Branch, your championship favorites tonight. 734 points for Taylor, 703 for Branch. Keep in mind, Matt Wagner also has a mathematical shot. However, Andrew, he has not taken part in final practice so far, meaning if he does not make this start for this finale, it's down to the top two.
Yes, and what a top two it's been. As you mentioned off the top, Matt Taylor has been the rabbit of the field this season. He's been the one who's tried to go out and lead the most laps, win the most races, but Joe Branch is the model consistency. Today, though, I think we're going to have to see the roles reversed a little bit because Joe Branch, as the underdog here, he needs to win this race or at least finish on that podium and hope that Matt Taylor has a bad day and finds himself back in the field if he has a shot at this. So right now, it's Matt Taylor's race to lose, but over the next 300 miles that we have in front of us, either one of those drivers can definitely reach out and snatch that crown.
The max points available with the double point finale, 126 points. That includes bonus points for the pole position, leading a lap, and having an incident-free race. There's still the team standings to talk about presented by HyperX, and those are still fairly tight. Powerslide Motorsports enters tonight as the team standings leader. However, the big thing about Dark Horse Racing, with Matt Wagner a part of that group, that's going to determine how that plays out for the team standings, depending on if he is able to make it in time for the green flag tonight.
Yeah, I would say that Powerslide at this point is the presumptive favorite for your team championship. It's going to take a miracle for Dark Horse to catch up at this point, particularly if Matt Wagner doesn't come in there. But you look at across those standings and wow, what a difference a year makes, doesn't it, Justin? Last year was Factory Back Motorsports running away with the championship, and now they're down in 7th position and not looking like they're really able to improve too much in this race. So we've got some battles still between the different teams, but for the most part, it's Powerslide's Motorsports championship to lose at this point.
Indeed, it's going to be intriguing to see how things play out, and we've seen this season, on top of things, how strong the rookies have been. The rookie standings presented by butt kicker Shane Coogan is the top rookie so far this campaign, and it's still fairly tight for the rookie title as Andrew Wood and Dakota DeMaine, along with Samuel Ryman, amongst those within mathematical range to battle for the rookie title.
What a rookie season for Shane Coogan. A little bit of an unknown in the IndyCar community coming into the season, but he has stamped his authority on this rookie championship and beating the likes of Jacob Oster, the likes of Andrew Wood, and some of these other drivers here who are veterans of the car, veterans of the Lionheart series, just not the Speedway series itself. It's been a really impressive showing from Shane Coogan, you gotta say.
Been extremely impressive, absolutely just outside of mathematical range for the overall championship, but a chance to try and clinch the rookie standings with Andrew Wood still keeping the pressure up indeed. Let's bring ourselves over to the series details presented by GSI. Keep in mind the championship prizes include a motor racing, direct drive wheelbase and formula rim, plus an NLR GT track cockpit. These drivers competing amongst the total cash and prize pool total of $6,930 this campaign using custom fixed setups built by Andrew Kinsella in the Dallara DW12. We'll have a new series champion for this campaign, and as talked about, a new team champion as part of what's been a very different 2022 compared to 2021. Let's bring ourselves over to the event details in turn, presented by Mojo Racing, as tonight we look to see who wins in the sunset. Once in the previous races here, the drivers led the most laps has not entered HyperX victory lane. Keep in mind, cautions not known to be aplenty here, Andrew. In fact, the last time the Speedway Series came here, it went caution-free.
And that can definitely happen at a track like Auto Club because you just have so much room out there. It's 5 lanes wide in most of the track, so there's a lot of room to maneuver, but it also means a lot of drafting, a lot of close racing as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what type of race we have here. As you said, last time out, no cautions, but I think that we've got a little bit of a stronger field, a little bit more competitive field, and the setup might just promote a little bit closer racing than we saw 1 year ago.
And here's an interesting note to mention. Amongst the drivers making one-off starts tonight, your defending race winner at this racetrack, close out last campaign, Robert Molechka III is amongst those in the field this evening. Drivers have another 90 seconds before they go into 5 minutes of solo qualifying, 2 laps. Matt Taylor, no surprise, quickest in final practice of 31.742 over Tyler Graff, Ricky Hart, and Gabe Wood, and Matthew Shore. Matt Taylor bringing up the tempo right from the get-go in final practice tonight.
Absolutely no surprise there, Justin. Matt Taylor has always been one of the drivers who wants to go as fast as he possibly can, whether it's practice, qualifying, or the race, so it doesn't surprise me in the slightest to see him stamping his authority on this already, using the draft, using this practice to fine-tune his race strategy, fine-tune his qualifying, because this really all comes down to this for Matt Taylor. He needs to execute in all phases of the race today if he wants to defend the charge of Joe Branch and bring home this championship.
And as the drivers make their way around for final practice, it's worth noting the track conditions fairly cool tonight. 73 degrees, clear blue skies, air temp, the track temperature 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Default winds at 2 miles an hour to the north currently. That's towards the front straightaway grandstands. So wind may not play too much of a factor per se in qualifying tonight to set the grid for the 150 lapper tonight.
No, the track conditions are just about perfect for racing. This is all going to be in the driver's hands, and it means that it's just that much more important to nail your lines in the qualifying session. This track, it's because it's so wide, because it's so big, you have to be absolutely precise to maximize the speed on a track this size.
35 entrants making their way to Auto Club Speedway tonight here on iRacing. Determine how this season finale plays out. OMSM Industries Championship 300 presented by Butt Kicker. It's time to go qualifying here from California. And the question mark's going to be, how do you qualify the best around this racetrack tonight, Andrew? You built the setup, You mentioned the expectations race-wise. What about qualifying rallies at this wide track?
So it really actually starts all the way down on pit lane. You have to maximize every single aspect of that, and that starts with your pit exit. It's a really flat pit exit on that apron there, and you have to go all the way into turn 2. Once you get out of turn 2, you do exactly what Gabe Wood is doing on screen right now. You go right up to the top of the racetrack, and then it's all about winding the car up. It's going to be 2 laps, and your second lap is going to be your fast one. So you have to find a way to get as much speed in the car in your first lap as possible. Treat this as a warm-up lap. If I were him, I'd be going right up to the top here, in fact, but he's actually staying down on the bottom right now, which is a little bit of an interesting strategy. If I were him, I would be up in that 4th, maybe even straddling that 4th and 5th seam there, and really winding the car up. He comes up to the outside here to wind the car up, but I think I would have done that in 1 and 2 as well. You see him hugging this outside, and then when he comes off of turn 4 here, he's going to dive down to the bottom. He's down on the apron here. I would have probably stayed up there because there is a little bit of a harsh transition here. It does cost you just a hundredth or 2 coming back up onto the track. Now you have to keep it right down on this line, but now once you get out of turn 2, let it track up just a little bit. He keeps it down. That's going to cost him another 100th, maybe another 200ths there. Comes back up just a little bit, arcs it in there, and now it's just about being smooth on that input through turn 3, through turn 4, and then dive down onto this apron, get as close as you dare to this grass, and then across the line, and that's how you qualify at Auto Club Speedway.
Gabe Wood starting at the top of the board, in fact, with a 32.164. Matthew Short, Mike Rigney, Shane Coogan, James Watson, the current top 5. Worth noting that double-digit number of drivers ended up fuel burning prior to hitting the racetrack. Coogan on his second lap currently. Amongst those looking to gain another couple tenths of a second. We talked about the speed for Shane Coogan throughout the campaign. A bit of a bobble coming down the front straightaway. Up from 7th. Only gains a 10th, however.
Yeah, Coogan had a little bit of issues coming out of turn 2. He got really low, touched the apron, and that cost him a good half a tenth, maybe even a full tenth of a second there. Tony Schown is a driver that I want to keep my eye on in this qualifying session. He was going to school with Rob Malechka earlier, and we know how fast Rob is in qualifying. It's a 32.132, not what Tony was hoping for in this qualifying session.
Tony Schown is still at the top of the board despite that, with the 32.1, about 4 1,000ths over Tyler Graff. One of the drivers to watch for. So it's for burning the fuel. Matt Taylor. Where will Matt Taylor fall to start off the night? A 32.149, not quick enough for the pole. That is quick enough for 5th best so far. Under 2 minutes to go in the session. Of those still qualified, Robert Malechka III, Joe Branch, Andrew Wood amongst those to keep an eye on.
I've seen in practice that we can go all the way down to a 109 was Rob's fastest time that I've heard so far. So I think there's still a couple of hundredths in this for someone to come out and snatch that pole, but you're right, Tony Schown is on the pole right now. We've only got a handful of drivers left. Nick DeGroot not looking the fastest on this lap at least, and he hits the apron, in fact.
Nick DeGroot with a major slide. That's not going to help Nick DeGroot's chances. Meanwhile, the qualifying king this season, Michael Goodman, will not exit the season with the final pole. Joe Branch, needing a good qualifying run, is in 24th currently with under a minute to work with.
So important. This lap is so important for Joe Branch's season. He needs to find himself in and around Matt Taylor, if not in front of him. If he can manage a top 10 start, he's going to be in really good shape here. It's looking good so far. What can Joe Branch do across the line?
32.158 gets him around the ballpark of his championship rival Matt Taylor. Within the top 10, in fact. 30 seconds to go in the session. Amongst those, still looking to bump up, Robert Malechka III. Down on the apron, 33 flat. First time, 32.108. He hit the ballpark, Andrew, you mentioned, for the pole.
That was basically equal to the best lap he told me he could do in qualifying, so I'm sure that Rob Malechka is going to be very happy about that one. Worth noting, Chris Fowler also was able to pip Tony Schown there in second place.
What an exciting qualifying session to close out the campaign. It's time to take a look Just a moment on how these drivers will start off here tonight. Andrew, your expectations for this championship finale?
This one is going to be really hard to predict what's going to happen. I think a lot of this is going to be down to what happens in these first 10 or so laps. If there's any sort of calamities, if there's any sort of chaos, it's going to throw the wrench into the plans for the championship contenders. But if it was me, I'd be using these first 25, 50 laps to really consolidate where I am. If I'm Matt Taylor, if I'm Joe Branch, and then as the race starts to mature a little bit, as the fuel starts to burn off, then you see where you're going and you can really get into the meat of the race.
35 entries tonight. In turn, 32 setting times. Robert Maweczka third for Power Slide Motorsports Ignition. The one-off start starts on the pole tonight, presented by Punt Kicker for the starting grid. Chris Fowler in second. Tony Schauen, Tyler Graf, Gavin Sanders, and Ron Hacker, the top 6. In seventh, Brian Beard. First championship contender Matt Taylor starts in 8th. Michael Goodman, Creighton Carter, Joe Branch. The top 11, Mark Cohen in a one-off. The Watchman starts in 12th. Dave Wood starts alongside Paul Jenkins, 13th and 14th. With Trevor Malone, Samuel Ryman, George Anzotto, and Mike Rigney, the top 18. Towards the back of the grid, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Jim Herrick, Ricky Harden, along with Dakota DeMay, Shane Coogan, Andrew Wood, the top 24. Gary Godsell, Matthew Short, Cody Wenson, and Hugo Gallas towards the rear as well. Greg Forsyth and Dean Mull round out this top 30 starting spots. The last 2 drivers on time, James Watson and Nick DeGroot, we've seen spin in qualifying. Dick Bolster starts in 33rd, Jeff Hyson, and Joe Hassard is the only member tonight of the ELL Club here at Auto Club. Let's take a look at your featured onboard cameras for tonight's action. Starting with the Butt Kicker on board. Greg Forsyth will be carrying that on board. Sim racing is better with Butt Kicker. Visit thebuttkicker.com. With the graphics esports machine, Thea Dupree was scheduled for that slot in the 98, not taking part tonight, but the Sim Race 24/7 on board with Gonzalez Nunez carrying forward. Visit simrace247.com, where sim racing is for everyone. Rounding out the featured onboard cameras, the HyperX onboard, George Anzotto. Whenever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. HyperX is always ready to game. That's a look top to bottom at tonight's running order and your featured onboard cameras. Andrew, your keys to victory for this championship finale.
The key is basically to stay out of trouble, be patient, and then go as fast as you can once you get settled into this race. It really is about patience, but it's also about speed. You can't let your opponents get a big break on you. You have to be with it when the break happens.
Mentioned no Matt Wagner in the starting grid, so the championship fight is down to 2. Matt Taylor, Joe Branch to decide it. That the drivers are all set to go. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. And this is the Gomez Sim Industries Championship 300 presented by Butt Kicker. The green flag is out. We're underway for the championship finale from California. Tony Schauen battling for the race lead already with Robert Maweczka to the third. Schauen with the pole will lead the first lap of 150 for this championship finale. Chris Fowler, second driver on the outside line. Also lined up at the bottom line is Tyler Graf.
That's 2 Powerslide Motorsports drivers out in front here, and this is exactly what Joe Branch needs. And I think we're going to see this a little bit of a theme here today, Justin. Is it's not just going to be your 2 championship competitors; it's going to be their teammates as well, trying to help them out and trying to get their horse to the front of the field.
Gavin Sanders, a good starting position tonight, still holding on to the top 5 early. 3 wide for the point as Ron Hacker tries to take a little bit of a peek. Last time around, Maweczka to third, getting the lead lap, but Fowler able to get clear for second. Here's a look from Brian Beard.
You can see it's a little bit of a traffic jam out there right now, and this is what happens at Auto Club early on in the stint, is everything is really packed up. There's a lot of people moving around out there, and this is where the patience comes in. This is where you just have to know when to go and know when to just hold your line.
Remember last year, drivers worked together a fair bit of the early going to try and break the draft. We've seen that much go to the third, and Newsom in particular, not so much this year so far. Looking towards the back half of the pack, Samuel Ryman amongst those losing ground early.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a bobble coming through turn 2, and it's just checked up the field a little bit. They're 3 wide, 2 by 2 there as Joe Hassard has come from the back of the field. He's moving his way up quickly.
Also amongst those moving up quickly, Craig Forsyth, those drivers plus 14, plus 11 respectively so far. Span of a couple laps. Remember, we've seen this in the past. Drivers able to charge through the pack. They're able to time up the runs here. Matt Taylor amongst those still riding along the top line, keep in mind. Joe Branch holding on to 11th in this. Here's the look from the back end of the race leader. Much to the third still.
Yeah, we've got Graphics LC Motorsports up on the high side, and Powerslide Motorsports is dominating that low line right now. So I think everyone's just calm here at the front. There's not too much moving around, which I think everyone is pretty happy to see at this point, particularly your 2 championship contenders. Right now, Matt Taylor is in 9th and Joe Branch is in 10th, and they're side by side right now. So I think they're just content where they are at this point in the race.
Yeah, this is one of those types of tracks we've seen in the past. Track position can be very valuable. Speaking of those cutting ahead, you mentioned Joe Hassard cutting ahead. He's joined the top 15 already. You see him in the backdrop, trying the middle, passing by 3 cars last corner.
Yeah, he's really using that middle lane to his advantage. There's sort of got a high line and a low line, and then the clean air sort of happens in the middle. But as we get closer and closer to the front of the field, it's going to be harder and harder for Joe Hassard to do that, because the drivers will be paying a lot more attention. They're going to be catching his runs coming, and it's going to be harder for him to accomplish. That being said, he is really shooting the gap there in the middle there.
He's inside the top 10 already, up 26 positions. The next driver in line is Joe Branch, and you see just where those momentum runs coming. We talked about the holes open, he just takes it.
And part of that is just getting some clean air on those wings. It's so important to find clean air around here, because even though you're mostly flat out, you do have little small lifts to manipulate the car a little bit, manipulate the balance, and make sure that you're getting the car turned. And as the tires go off, the lifts get bigger and bigger, so finding clean air will be so important over the course of this race.
Watch go to third, still holding on to the race lead to start lap 9 this time around. Chowan, Ron Hacker, Michael Goodman, the top 4 currently. And the tempo seems to be starting to be set a little bit. You mentioned by some of the team drivers up in front. The matter, though, of will it stay that way this year?
Well, look at the bottom line here, Justin. We have Powerslide 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the bottom. So the bottom right now being dominated by Powerslide Motorsports. Joe Branch has worked himself all the way up to 6th position. Gavin Sanders now slotting in front of him, breaking up that Powerslide quartet. But it looks like right now, at least, the bottom is where you want to be, and Powerslide is there right now.
Distance around indeed, and so far seen solid jobs by those respective drivers. Looks like Michael Goodman wanting to leapfrog a little bit on the bottom, lifts back in 2nd spot of the battle for 2nd, should say. Look at the team dynamic that we're talking about. That's up on the pylon. Mentioned plenty of different teams trying to shuffle ahead. Some of the synergy machines as well starting to cut ahead.
And the big story right now is look at where Matt Taylor is in relation, and all the Graphics LC Motorsports cars, they're going backwards at this point. Matt Taylor's found himself all the way down to 14th, so this is not the start that Matt Taylor is really hoping for, I don't think.
Yeah, Taylor getting slotted back with some of those really charging through the pack. Currently 14th place, scores you 31 points. For reference, Joe Branch is still running in 7th. 3-4 wide in the heart of the pack once again. Taylor forced to check back and lift back. -8 now this run. Make it -9.
And this is the danger zone here for Matt Taylor. He's only a second back of the lead of the race right now. But at the same time, look at the hornet's nest that he's behind. If one driver makes a mistake in front of him, he might just have nowhere to go on that outside line. So if I'm Matt Taylor, I'm not really happy about where I am in this race right now.
All the way in the heart of the pack, currently on that outside line, battling with Gary Gonso for reference. Joe Branch also slipping back a little bit. Speaking of slipping forward, though, once those cutting ahead, Joe Hassert, he's looking for the top 4 already, making the top 3 up the middle with the runoff Goodman up to 3rd.
What a charge here from Joe Hassert. That is basically from the back to the absolute front of this field in 14 laps. Just amazing stuff from Hassert.
And he's going for the lead to the inside of Robert Wutchka to the 3rd. Joe Hassert takes the point for the first time today. How about that?
That is amazing stuff. Nothing short of incredible driving there from Joe Hassert. I don't know how he's got that far up this field that quickly.
The championship contenders, by the way, on your pylon are highlighted in red throughout the rest of this evening. Joe Branch, as you see, in 13th. Matt Taylor in 17th, currently on the racetrack. So again, your championship contenders are highlighted in red up on your pylon today. So both your championship contenders, Andrew, just dropping back like stones.
Yeah, Branch, I think he really early on, but now that bottom line is starting to wear out just a little bit. The tires are starting to go off, and it's not quite as strong. And we saw this in Kansas a little bit, didn't we, Justin, with Joe Branch's approach to the race. He really likes staying on the bottom of the racetrack, and it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be fast throughout the race, but he was there at the end, and I think he could be once again here today. Again, the major thing is he can't afford to be behind Matt Taylor, and so far he is still in front.
And so far he is for the time being, as we are already quickly zipping away through this one. Keep in mind, tonight's fuel stint's projected to be about 35-37 laps without the fuel save tonight. Those fuel windows, about a 3-stopper for this race tonight. In turn, how do you think the strategy will now play out, especially knowing how some of these packs are forming up, say in the battle for 11th?
Yeah, I think that you're going to find a lot of drivers will be saving a little bit of fuel, particularly if you're in that sort of 10th through 15th area and you're settling into that sort of spot like Joe Branch is. You're going to be lifting off the throttle a little bit more. You're going to be saving fuel in the draft, and I do think that there's going to be a little bit of a benefit towards the end of the race, but it's going to take a while for that strategy to evolve, because I do think everyone will be on a very similar pit strategy in terms of how many stops they're going to have in this race.
Well, to say, based on the fuel projections, if you went 35 each time, you can only make it a 10 to go, even at the 37 window. It was projected coming into tonight. Cars can make it only lap 148 on the 150. Still keeping an eye on Brian Beard amongst those trying the middle line. Just trying to pick out these lines and try and find some clean air.
And again, clean air will be so important, and particularly, again, as the run goes on, as the tires go off, that clean air, you just need to you have to find a way to find it. Fortunately, this track is 4 or 5 lanes wide, so you are able to take some different lines here and get that clean air on your nose. But the trick is you almost have to anticipate what the driver in front of you is going to do, because by the time you commit to a line in the corner, you really can't change it. So that's really the trick to driving a super speedway. It is not only just driving yourself, but driving what you think your opponent isn't going to do.
Greg Forsythe choosing the top line, trying to thread his way around traffic. Just got held up, though, by Ron Hacker. He and Trevor Malone charging hard for the past lap or so. Remember, Forsythe amongst those starting towards the back. Also towards the back, Nick DeGroot up 24 after his spinning quality.
And we've got a lot of really aggressive drivers here, Justin. There's some dicey situations there. We were nearly 4 wide coming off of 2 there for a second. But you can see the slicing and dicing is starting to start up just a little bit here with these drivers who aren't really that worried about the championship. They're all about trying to go as fast as they can and get that W here today.
Nick DeGroot, in fact, jumping up to 5th spot, rounding the bottom of the racetrack in 1 and 2. Plenty of clean air that time. And most drivers, it seems, in 1 and 2, moving up to those middle grooves more so. The bottom still being played out a bit in 3 and 4.
Yeah, but you can see even on the exit of 3 and 4, where at the beginning of the race they were really hugging that inside lane all the way around. On the exit of these corners now, the drivers aren't able to hold that car down, and they're sliding up the racetrack, and that's what's causing a little bit of these concertina effects, is just the lanes coming into one on the exit of the corners, and it's only going to get worse the farther you get through this fuel switch.
What can you say? You need to be aggressive at this point. Seeing that, a bit of a slide. That is Michael Goodman with some smoke kicking out for the 99 from 9. We stay green.
That was a big moment there from Michael Goodman. It was a good job from him just to keep that car pointed straight, because he had a big slide going.
Bounced off the side pod of Ron Hacker in the battle for what appeared to be 6th position. Here's a look on board, the 21 outside.
And just a little bit of aero washing. You can see he just can't keep that car on the bottom there. But he's got a car up top with Ron Hacker, and he did come on the radio and apologize to Ron Hacker there for that incident. But Goodman with a really good save there to keep that car pointed straight and not cause a bigger incident in front of the field.
Michael Goodman dropping back to 15th spot from that situation. Ron Hacker 7th spot. And we stay green. And that's exactly what I think you were just talking about with the tightness, right?
Absolutely. That was purely just the tires have gone off, and it goes off almost corner to corner at a certain point in this run. So what you could get away with a lap before, by the time you get back around and go through 1 and 2 again, you can't get away with it anymore, and you have to really be on top of it because there are no in-car adjustments in this DW12 league. So it's really, really difficult, and it's all in the driver's hands.
Way, Matt Taylor back to 21st, looking towards the front again. Joe Hassert trying to hold on to the lead, but here comes Nick DeGroot for 2nd. DeGroot having to lift a little bit in the battle for 2nd to avoid the aero wash. Still clears up to the spot though. Here's a look from Forsyth.
And it's very interesting to watch this sort of dynamic that's going on at the front, because you can tell that Hassert was trying to defend from Rob Malechka there. He stayed up the track a little bit, and that allowed that dive down from Nick DeGroot to happen because he was able to get that clean air on the bottom lane. And as soon as he had that clean air, that car was hooked to the bottom.
For the race lead, Joe Hassert under attack. Nick DeGroot just floored it. Nick DeGroot to the race lead, and a new race leader once again. We've seen multiple different leaders: Goodman, Schowen, Malechka to the 3rd, Hassert, and now DeGroot to the point.
And Nick DeGroot was another driver who started right at the back of this field, Justin. So that's 2 drivers who went from the back to the front. Hassert did it in about 14 laps. It took Nick DeGroot basically double that to get there for lap 27, but he is there.
And Forsyth wants a chance as well for 40 sim racing. A look to the pack. DeGroot able to get the swamp back for turn 3's run. Joe Hassert lining things up. Here comes the side-by-side yet again. Where does the 72 elect to go? He falls to DeGroot.
Yeah, but look at that move from Hassert, and that's put him back in the lead of this race. And I think that you can definitely tell that some of these drivers are fuel saving, but the 3 at the front that have come from the back, Hassert, DeGroot, and Forsyth, they're not fuel saving. They're going flat out. And I do think that some of the drivers who have fallen back here, they are on the fuel save strategy, maybe trying to extend that, because if they get it to 39 or 40 laps, that's in the realm of making it on maybe one less stop here, Justin.
Keep in mind, amongst those also carving the way to the pack still, Andrew Wood. Andrew Wood currently in 13th position. He has Josh Chin and Philip Kraus on his box tonight.
2 very strong drivers in the private label Team Hype and Team Talent stables. Of course, teammates with Andrew Wood on the Team Talent side of things, but here in the Lionheart series, Wood operating under a different banner, but no less friendly with Josh and Phil.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Brian Beard starting to slow down the bottom of the track. He's back to 23rd position. Remember, Beard started top 10. He has really fallen back in the midst of things here.
Yeah, Beard had a little bit of a moment coming out of 4 on the last lap, but here's the big thing right now for me is Joe Branch right now. He's in that 13th position, and he's right around where he needs to be. I think he'd want to be a little bit further up, but the big thing for the championship right now is that he is 5 positions in front of Matt Taylor, and if he keeps that up, it's going to make it closer and closer on the championship. He needs to keep doing what he's doing and let the race sort itself out, but he's still in contact with the race lead, and that's exactly what he needs to do.
We are approaching the first pit stop window of this race tonight. Keep an eye on as well that 8 machine, who is back in 18th position for reference, up towards the front. Swap drafting continuing. Joe Hassert taking the lead in 1 and 2. Nick DeGroot in 3 and 4 currently.
Yeah, and the swap draft really is strong here. Basically, what you can do is you get overspeed from being in the draft. So if you swap it out nicely, then each car is faster in a straight line, and they use the car in front in the corner to set the pace there. So it works out that it's a faster way around the track, and basically what they're doing right now is they're pulling the rest of the field behind them, and it's strung out basically single file all the way back into this battle for 9th and 10th that we see on screen.
Top 35 separated by about 6.5 seconds currently. Very tightly compact. There is a few stranglers though for about 31st on back. Most of the field staying within the line. Here's the 2x2 you're referring to. Once those in this, Chris Fowler, who's dropped a fair bit this lap. Andrew Wood, who's gained a fair bit this lap.
And of course Joe Branch on the inside there as well, just behind them as they sort of come back together in through that first couple of corners there. But Chris Fowler, he's been a really strong driver so far today. He's always been in this sort of top 10 battle, hasn't really fallen too much further back than this. But you're mentioning pit stops happening soon, and that's going to be really telling for your championship contenders, because it's going to be so important to not just nail what's going on the track, but nail your pit stops as well, because a lot of time could be made up on pit entry and pit exit here at Auto Club.
Look at the pace car. You see just how much the speed difference is. 220 miles an hour currently around this racetrack. Now it becomes the question mark, though, of how do you enter this pit lane knowing it's likely going to be a packed pit entry at your full speed, and we've seen plenty of crashes last year on the entries.
Yeah, it's a tricky pit entry because the transition between the banking and the flat is so abrupt that you really have to be careful. But you have to also be maximizing your speed because there's a long area on that flat. So it basically, when you make the transition, you're still doing it at a very high rate of speed, and it can spin the car out very easily.
Look at the heart of the pack, and you see how things are snaking. Matt Taylor starting to pick his spots back up. Nice, he's been over the past 5 laps, his 17th position. But he's starting to try and pick his way off one by one again and close up to the Bumblebee.
Yeah, I think the big thing for Matt Taylor is, A, he needs to keep Joe Branch inside, but he also needs to be cognizant of just how far back he's falling from the lead of this race. If he gets too far back from the leaders, they can get a breakaway going, and it'll be a disaster for Matt Taylor. As I think we're going to have our first round of pit stops this time by. I think we're right in that window, aren't we, Justin?
Yes, we are. More calls. In fact, several different calls coming over the radio. Joe Hassert from the lead. Several more from the back of the pack. So our pit window is open for the first time tonight in this 150-lapper. There goes Matthew Short, Jeff Hyson, James Watson in. Joe Hassert has already gone in.
And this doesn't surprise me from Hassert. He was using every ounce of fuel he could right from the get-go. So it probably would have been good for him to go maybe another lap or two here in terms of the overall fuel strategy, but I think he was just really set on getting to the front of the field as quickly as he could. But it's interesting that he's come in and the other leaders are still well out on track here, and there's only been about 4 or 5 cars. I think you're going to see a number more drivers come down this time by.
Right, Forsyth down to the point. Nick DeGroot over the radio. He wants to come in this time, as well as Paul Jenkins and several more trying to press the button at the exact same time. How will this entry play out? Here comes DeGroot with the run once again. DeGroot slows it on down for his entry. He brings a couple more with him behind him.
This is such an important pit entry for these drivers. You really have to be aware of what all the other drivers around you are doing. Make sure that you don't impede anyone. You can see it's such a wide pit lane, but that can also sometimes lead to chaos. And I think that was Goodman.
That was Andrew Wood, who just got spun around with Michael Goodman. And Wood is the wrong way around to the pit lane.
Yeah, and this was just as I was saying it had happened. Basically, Wood turned across in front of Michael Goodman, and there's no way for Michael Goodman to know where Wood is coming into the pit lane, and it's just one of those things that can happen, and a really unfortunate scenario there.
2 speeding penalties, Jim Herrick, Jacob Oster. Those 2 drivers having to serve 40-second stop and holds as a result of their speeding penalties and their black flags, so take them out of contention. Definitely take Wood out of contention from this damage. Oh, and it's Taylor.
It was Taylor. It was Taylor who got in the back of Andrew Wood there, so hopefully Taylor didn't have any damage to his wing.
The answer is yes. He had to make the wing change. There it is.
Oh my goodness. These are serious championship implications for that, and wow, it can change in a heartbeat there, can it, Justin?
Absolutely, and Shane Coogan has ran out of gas. Shane Coogan is crawling at 45 miles an hour on the apron in 3 and 4, seen on the mini-map. So Coogan has also made a mistake this call. He had pit last time by, and now he has to roll it in again.
Yeah, so that must have been a mistake in terms of the fuel. The fuel wasn't checked for Shane Coogan, and he has to come back down. So this is going to have major implications. Both of our Rookie of the Year contenders had a disastrous pit cycle here, Justin.
As well as one of your championship contenders, in fact, the championship favorite most of the year, Matt Taylor, is in 28th because of that. Joe Branch, after the pit cycle, is 17th.
Yeah, so Branch didn't have much better of a pit cycle. I don't think he had any actual incidents happen, but he certainly is farther back than he was hoping for. Right now, he's got to work with Brian Beard to really get back up to that leading path.
What a change to the championship complexions here, as Beard now swap drafting with Branch. It was a 3-second slower pit entry and pit mark in the lane for Branch. Hence where Branch lost his time.
So I wonder if it was almost the exact same thing with Goodman, where he had a car to his inside and he couldn't get down into his pit box.
Yeah, there is that possibility with the craziness there. Amongst those with lengthy pit stops on top of things, George Anzaldo, 24 seconds. As well, we mentioned Jacob Ulster with the black flag. Ron Hacker. Significant time in the pit lane, Jim Herrick, after his speeding penalty, has pulled his car into the pit stall for a lengthy time. So the complexion of the race leaders and their packs have changed down to a 10-group lead. Things here is what happened to Branch. Wow.
He just missed his pit box. He pulled into the wrong box and then pulled too far forward. Basically, you're supposed to be able to go through the car in front of you, but because of that, he didn't know where his marks were, and that's cost Branch dearly. But at the same time, I think Matt Taylor came out way worse than that, because he's 3.5 seconds behind Jeff Heisong, so he doesn't even have a draft right now.
Might need a caution, to say the very least, right now. Shane Coogan cycled to 33rd. 2 laps down from his situation. Taylor is still on the lead lap, 14 seconds adrift. You never know what happens with the championship, right?
And that all sort of happened at once, didn't it, Justin? Meanwhile, we still have a race going on at the front of this field, and it's Gavin Sanders who's made his way to the front now.
About to say, Gavin Sanders, the quickest pit stop out of the entire top 5, has helped him get ahead. Nick DeGroot's in the line, Craig Forsyth second in it. Joe Hassert, Trevor Malone, the top 5, Tony Shelton, Chris Fowler, Mark Cohen, Robert Watchker, third, Michael Goodman, all in this choo-choo train.
And then crucially, there's a big gap before you get back to Luis Gonzalez-Nunez, and then that group will include Joe Branch eventually. So that grouping is going to be at least 5 seconds back of this leading pack by the next fuel stint. So right now, both of your championship contenders, I think, are just praying for a caution.
Yeah, this has gone a completely different direction than I think some may have expected tonight. Paul Jenkins is leading Pack 2 with Luis Gonzalez-Nunez, by the way. Those drivers about 2 to 3 seconds back. Also of note in this pack, credit Carter, Tyler Grafting, Mull, Ricky Harden towards the front of it. And Joe Branch.
Yeah, so really what needs to happen now for Joe Branch is he needs to get to the front of this pack and start to pull them back towards that leading 10-car train that's at the front of this field. But he's got to do it quickly because he can't afford to lose too much time here. Basically, right now, if things were to end as they run right now, Matt Taylor, even though he's way down in 28th position, he's still in position to win this race win this championship simply because Joe Branch will not be getting enough points.
Remember, there was a difference of about 31 points between those two drivers entering tonight. Consistency wins championships. Still up at the front, Gavin Sanders leading the Pied Piper of the pack, coming up to 100 laps to go already. These 10 drivers are gaining time on the next group.
Yes, they are. And right now, it's all really sort of nice and tidy here at the front. All of these drivers are just sort of content to ride here behind Gavin Sanders and Craig Forsyth. And I think that Joe Hassert, after that charge that he put on that first stint, he's now content to just sit back and fuel save a little bit. But he's got Trevor Malone looking to the high side now.
Malone trying to peak. Not able to get the run. Here comes Tony Schowen, though. Schowen was as far back as 10 car lengths a couple laps ago. He tries to jump up to 4th. Still able to hold on to the outside is Joe Hassert, though.
And that shows you what some momentum can do around this place. You can really get the car wound up and use the draft to your advantage and really leapfrog not just 1 but 2 cars. But the danger is doing exactly what happened to Tony Schowen there. His car stalled out just a little bit there. Wasn't really able to get the pass fully completed on Joe Hassert, and Hassert battles back on the outside. So is Trevor Malone.
A net zero situation there in that span of the lap. They fall back. Here's the thing, the more they shuffle together, the more time drivers like Jenkins, Nunez, and Guthrie can close. They gain 3/10 from that shuffling.
Yeah, that second pack is absolutely coming. They're working together a lot better with Jenkins and Nunez at the front of it, and they've gained a significant amount of time because Sanders is just sort of contentedly running on this sort of middle to high line, and everyone else is just fuel saving behind him. So it's basically creating this scenario where it's allowing that second pack to really get a sniff of starting to make some proper gains in this. I think it's going to be another 3 or 4 tenths this lap as well.
The gap is down to about 3.3 seconds between Gavin Sanders and Luis Gonzalez-Nunez. The gap 2 seconds between 10th and 11th. See Nunez now leading that pack. They've swapped yet again, and they continue to pick up time. Nunez, a 32.1 last time to the leader's 32.5.
And this is exactly what Joe Branch needed to see, is that gap closing lap by lap. He is probably feeling a lot more relief now than he did when he saw where he came out from that pit stop mistake. Worth noting as well, looking at the gaps for Matt Taylor is just slowly taking time out of Jeff Heisong, and he's surprisingly taking time out of Gavin Sanders in the lead as well. It's down under 14 seconds just this past time by. So Matt Taylor is not giving up in this. He's got a long way to go to get back into the battle, but he is definitely still putting in this work.
What can you say? You have to race the whole entire 300 miles to determine how this can play out for the championship. Still keeping an eye on that second grouping. Brian Beardon still trying to make some charges. Starting to even out a little bit on time with some of the drivers mid-pack looking to battle up. They are just about fully closed up to Goodman, though.
I was about to say it's going to be in the draft this time by, I think, for this second pack, and you're going to see them really suck up to the back of the leading pack, and it's quickly going to turn into about a 20-car pack for the lead instead of just a 10.
Yes, indeed, this is down and closed up. Chris Fowler taking the very high line through that corner. That's going to close up the pack fully.
Yeah, that was interesting from Fowler there. I'm not sure what exactly happened. It looks like he might have a little bit of a problem here because he's going real slow.
Chris Fowler again right on the top line. Something is up with the 20. Chris Fowler, been having one of his best races of the season, has dropped all the way to the back of the group. He is running about 10 miles an hour slower than everybody else.
Yeah, what has happened with Fowler here? I'm just trying to see. I don't see any real issues other than it just looks like he suddenly started to slow. I don't see him ever getting into the wall, but he's just slow.
It looks like he's running in fourth gear. So,
you know what, Justin? I wonder if he is sacrificing his race to go back to his teammate Matt Taylor and try and get him back, and they're going to go and work together. I think this is Chris Fowler, knowing that he's not in the championship, he's going back and finding his teammate.
that is a long way back to go, though. He still needs to drop back 5 seconds if this is indeed the play.
I think it's what he has to do. He wants to win this championship so bad for Matt Taylor, and I don't blame him. I know Chris, he wouldn't do this for basically anyone else other than his buddy Matt Taylor, and so he is definitely dropping back, I think, to go find him.
Well, he is the next car in line, and this is going to get interesting towards the post-race, but either way, there is Fowler, there comes Taylor. Taylor with the run at 225 miles an hour. Fowler all of a sudden speeds up by 15-20 miles an hour, and now he's got a buddy.
Yep, so that was the play there from Chris Fowler. They're going to be swap drafting, and they know that they couldn't just keep going with the way that this race was going with Joe Branch being a part of this leading pack again. They couldn't afford to just sit there and do nothing. So as a team, I think that they decided that they had to do it this way.
So an interesting play. We look towards the front meanwhile. Gavin Sanders still the Pied Piper, and now you see all the drivers from the second pack looking to start to make some moves. Amongst those, the watchman, Mark Cohn. And keep in mind, whenever we see Mark Cohn in these Triple Crown races, he usually finds a way to win them.
Mark Cohn is definitely one of those drivers who can rise to the occasion on a super speedway like this. He's very experienced in this type of racing, similar to Joe Hassard and a number of these other drivers that are near the front of this field. They know what they're doing, and I would definitely put my money on Mark Cohn being around at the end of this race.
So holding on to the 7th position. Qualified well tonight in the mid-pack. Here comes the run to the outside as well from Paul Jenkins, who's also been very much improved as of late. Did really want Kansas Andrew. He's done really well tonight.
Yeah, he's definitely been showing a turn of speed on these ovals, particularly the bigger ovals. I think he's really starting to come into his own in being a little bit more comfortable in these situations right here in this three wide situation. At times in the past, he was probably a little bit timid, not knowing exactly how to race these guys the way that they race him, but he's really started to step it up.
Range for the race lead up in the pylon. Nick DeGroot getting the swap around, still 3 and 2 wide behind him. Watchman Mark Cohn amongst those trying to shuffle. Michael Goodman also with that shuffle. Trevor Malone trying to get around the 39 next.
And this doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Now that pack is caught up, they don't want to just sit there at the back of the pack. They really want to go towards the front and not put themselves in a position to be dropped again on this next time by. So I think they learned their lesson. They really want to get closer to the front, but it's causing a little bit of chaos here as they start to try and pass these drivers who are sort of content to go single file for so much of this second stint here.
Let's go to third amongst those charging on the bottom of the racetrack. Behind them, Luis Gonzalez-Nunez trying to run up on the second and third line. Ricky Harden trying to do around the same. Creighton Carter, Dean Mull amongst those at the back of the pack, shuffling.
And right at the back of this field, as well as Joe Branch, he's just sort of content now that he's caught up to the lead of the race. He's just cruising at the back, staying out of trouble, and just seeing what happens over the course of the rest of his stint. But I think he really does have to consider making a move back towards the front of this pack a little bit sooner this time so that he doesn't risk getting dropped once again, because that's a real concern for Branch at this point.
The way things are scored, Joe Branch would get about 54 points. Matt Taylor, the way things currently scored with him, 27th, 36 points. Into the map, Taylor doing what he needs to. Despite being further back, it's going to be tight if it holds the way it is. Still plenty of time to go, keep in mind. For reference, Fowler and Taylor have gained a second on the leaders compared to the last time we checked in.
Yeah, they're really working well together. I've been keeping an eye on them, and they're doing the swap draft to perfection at this point. So they're really starting to come. I'm thinking that they're getting probably between 3 and 4 tenths a lap right now out of the lead of this race, although the leaders have started to pick it up now that Nick DeGroot has gone to the front of the field.
32 threes currently by the pack. You see the side-by-side. Carter amongst those, trying to sort themselves out. What a night for Grant Carter. Qualified top 10, one of his best starting positions of the season. Held on to the track position so far. At 71, he's not had the luck this year.
No, it's been a bit of an unlucky year for Creighton Carter, but he's definitely shown speed at certain points of the season, and he's doing a real good job here, right behind Michael Goodman and Joe Hassard, and those are two really strong drivers to learn from as well. I would definitely be very happy to race with them as they get really close to Joe Hassard coming into turn 3 there.
Oh, in contact with Joe Hassard. Joe Hassard to the wall. The big one in the heart of the pack.
Oh, Branch is involved.
Joe Branch, one of the championship contenders, is in it. We're under caution. And the championship has just taken a collapse.
Wow. We were just talking about how maybe being at the back of this pack wasn't the best play for Joe Branch, and he's been caught up in this, and it was Creighton Carter and Joe Hassard here. Carter right behind Goodman just gets a little bit of that arrow wash. Hassard didn't give him very much space on that outside line. 2 into 1, and then it's right in front of the whole pack there in just 5 or 6 cars with nowhere to go.
And that was the fear everybody had. When would the big one strike? Joe Branch, who was in prime position in the championship, he is demolished.
Yeah, you can see just absolutely nowhere to go for Joe Branch. It's such a shame that it comes to an end like this for the 28 Power Slide driver, because he had done such a good job throughout this race, and that's just a shame.
This incident collecting at least 10 cars. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Brian Beard, Dakota DeMade. Gary Gotso just barely gets through that.
Yeah, we basically wiped out the entire back half of that top 10 and some of the top 15 as well. So it's going to be some major repairs need to happen here.
Joe Branch amongst those crawling into the pit lane, pit stops from just about the entire field here. Hugo Gallas, Samuel Ryman, Matthew Short staying out. The rest of the field coming in for their scheduled service. Cody Wenson also stayed out that time around. But man, we talked about how one caution can change a championship. This may have just fallen into Matt Taylor's lap.
Yeah, I highly suspect that Joe Branch will have terminal damage here, but you never know. He might be able to repair. He certainly won't have the speed if he is able to repair this car. You can see he's going to have some side pod damage, so he won't be able to do anything on his own. He's got side pod damage on both sides. It's going to be real tough for him to make any speed. It does look like he's gotten front and rear wings, so that is a promising sign that he's not been meatballed at this point, but that's some significant damage on that left side.
Off and away he goes. He did put on a new rear end that appeared on that car. Feel for Joe Branch with how consistent he's been. You can see he's trying to test out the fuel of the car. He's got significant side pod damage still. At the other end of the racetrack, Nick DeGroot is now the race leader. Sanders, Mawachka to the third, Shawan, Forsyth, the top 5.
Yeah, and Branch has got some significant suspension damage. He's going to have to come back down again for sure. He can barely keep that car in a straight line right now. And unfortunately, the lights are out on the pace car here, so he's not going to have very much time to repair this before he goes one lap down. This is basically the end of Joe Branch's championship, and you can crown Matt Taylor the champion right now.
An unbelievable turn for how this championship has fared out amongst the DNFs. During that incident, Brian Beard, Crane Carter, Paul Jenkins, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Joe Hassert, Dean Mall. Andrew Wood had also parked his car a few laps prior to that incident. His response, finding ways to walk under ladders and break mirrors. I think the championship has a bigger stance, though, on that luck to the Branch side. Branch has already had to come back down to the pit lane for additional repairs. And as we approach the halfway point of this race, it's the matter of who's going to take the checker flag now in this one. Down to about 23 clean cars remaining here in Fontana, California. It's Nick DeGroot, all the way from a qualifying mistake, who leads them to the green flag, coming to 78 laps to go. Joe Branch has lost a lap with the damage repairs. In fact, potentially a couple. Matt Taylor, for reference, is still in 18th position.
Yeah, this is basically the end for Joe Branch. It's going to have to take a miracle for him to leapfrog Taylor. Taylor's basically going to have to crash out of the race, and then Branch is going to have a lot of other people crash so that he can finish in that top 7, top 8. So it's not impossible for Branch, but it is all but impossible at this point.
Already a big grouping from about 6 on back has broken up. Michael Goodman losing ground. Ricky Harden trying to take advantage. He's now starting to make some slices and nices in his blue, yellow, and black car.
And there was definitely a little bit of a checkup that happened in that sort of 6th, 7th, 8th position, and it's allowed this leading 5-some to really stretch it out. But Harden and Goodman, now that they've sort of sorted it out, they're starting to reel it back in, and you can just see how important having that draft is. And as the lights are coming down, Justin, the track temperature is coming down, and it's going to mean that the action is going to come even more fast and furious. We're down a couple of degrees on track temp from the start of this race.
Remember, started at 77, we're down to 75 degrees Fahrenheit currently. In some time, nearly 8 p.m. already. Oh, and some trouble with the back of the pack. I believe Trevor Malone has just had an issue.
Yeah, that was a big incident there for Trevor Malone. I'm surprised that we didn't get a caution there. The iRacing caution system gracing us with a little bit of leeway there, but looks like Malone had some serious issues off of 4.
Got side pod damage. That was the car behind.
And maybe a little bit of air involved in there as well there, Justin, but unfortunate incident there for Malone. You can see he was already loose. I think that side pod damage was causing him to be a little bit more erratic than he wanted to be, and Gallows really didn't have very many places to go there on the exit of that corner, because you're really committed to your line at that point in the track out.
Just past the halfway point of this race, and it has been an eventful one so far for those just tuning in. Moments ago, Joe Branch involved in the big one of the championship contenders. Branch has now parked his car. Joe Branch is appearing to be done for the night. In car number 28, it's Matt Taylor's championship to lose as long as he keeps on going with how his season's been as the series leader in victories. We're down to 72 to go this upcoming time by, right now, 22 cars, separated by 3 seconds in the main pack.
And in a way, I think, Justin, this might be a little bit freeing for Matt Taylor. I think you might see him starting to be a little bit more aggressive, because now that he's basically assured of the championship, if Joe Branch has in fact retired, he is assured of the championship because he did come in here as the leader. This could result in him more going for not just the win of the championship, but the win of the race as well.
And a side note, Factory Back now working together as a team tonight now, because Jacob Ulster drove by everybody, screamed through the aero screen, and now leads the pack, so he is at the tail end of the lead lap, making 24 cars in the group.
Yeah, very important move there for Oster, because if another caution comes out, then that means that he gets to go all the way around. He can take service with the drivers, and he doesn't have to basically sacrifice his pit strategy in order to get back on the lead lap. So a very important move for Oster, and I think that you'll see that a number of these drivers are just content to let him do this and save fuel behind him.
Especially helpful with Nick DeGroot being the teammate next in the line. Amongst those also able to carve ahead through all this, George Enzoldo amongst those in the top 5 for the first time tonight.
Yeah, the standings certainly have been shaken up with that incident. A number of drivers that we haven't seen up there all night are right in that leading pack. Gary Godso, another one right behind George Enzoldo. Gabe Wood up from the back of the pack. He's in 4th.
Near contact with him, and there goes Gonzo! Gonzo goes around. Caution flag is out as Tony Shalin flips in the heart of the pack. An additional car slides to the grass. Shane Coogan wants those around, and we're under caution again.
Just as we were talking about them, commentator's curse comes into effect there, Justin. Gary Godso with just looked like a little bit of cross signals there. George Enzoldo had to check up. Gary Godso checked up, and then I think it was Tyler Graff, and then nowhere for Gary to go, and Tony Shalin, just a completely innocent bystander there.
Yogawa's also picking up contact. This helps the 9 car at the very least. Not so much those in the heart of the pack. And as mentioned, here comes Graff for the contact. Round they go.
Now, stay on this. So Matt Taylor, did he get some damage from Gary Godso there? No, okay.
Yeah. Okay, here's Taylor.
You can see cars flipping in front of you, and it's never good when you see the cars just flipping in front of you, and you're never sure where they're going to go. So there was a lot of chaos on that front straightaway that he had to negotiate. So I think at this point, Matt Taylor would just appreciate having a little bit of a quieter race for a little while.
Interesting enough, Jacob Ulster elected to come in and pit during that sequence. Now just came in, rather. So I believe he is back on the lead lap. Cody Wentz and Mark Cohn staying out the past time around. Everybody else taking more scheduled service. Makes the strategy a little bit easier when you do it in your head mathematically now with under 70 to go.
Yes, it does, Justin. This is basically a one-stop race from here. The only question will be what you want to do in terms of the tires, and what happens if you have a caution in another few laps. Do you want to come back down, or do you want to stay out? It's going to open up some possibilities for sure. And we did have a couple of drivers stay out there, I believe. Cody Wenzen and Mark Cohn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, so we do have a couple of drivers rolling those strategy dice there a little bit. I'm not sure that I agree with staying out if you're Mark Cohn, especially with the speed that he's shown. Cody Wenzen, I can more understand, because he hasn't really been up at the front too much over the course of this race yet.
Did get a lead lap from it, though. We'll see if that's the intended play, and then come back down like we've seen from the previous caution. A little staying out. It looks like Mark Cohn is taking the peel off this time. Cody Wenson is staying out, however.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me that he's rolling the dice, just because having that clean air and having the track position at the front is very important. We've seen a couple of times already that being back in the pack is not where you want to be when a calamity happens in front of you, because you just have nowhere to go sometimes.
Reset your top 10. It's Whitson, DeGroot, Sanders, Forsyth, Gabe Wood, Anzaldo, Kraft, Malechka to the third, Harden, Goodman. The top 10. The interesting mark's going to be how is the 88 impacted after the contact from the caution period. We'll have to see amongst those. Now towards the back of the grouping, Jacob Ulster is now on the lead lap. Mark Cohn has completed his service. Joe Branch has elected to put his car back on the racetrack, Andrew. He has a chance to pick up 4 spots on the racetrack for the big ones.
And that doesn't surprise me. It's one of those situations where you never want to give up hope that this can happen and somehow you can finish in the positions you need. But the problem is Matt Taylor wasn't one of the drivers who got out there, and every position that Matt Taylor has, it requires another 2 from Joe Branch to get up further.
And not to add the salt on the wound, you have to wonder what would happen if we seen Wagner make the start. He was feeling unwell tonight, got that confirmation in from Matt Wagner. So much has happened tonight involving this championship fight. 66 laps to go in this race, a one-stopper on the fuel. We're back on our way. Great launch for Cody Winson. The bumper over to Groot and Sanders. The rest of the field separated out by a few car lengths apiece.
Nicely strung out here, but I don't think that's going to last. We've seen the draft time and time again working so strong, and Gavin Sanders is already drafted up to the back of those 2 that have elected to stay out. He's looking for the lead already, coming off of 4.
Benson trying to hug the bottom of the racetrack. Here comes Sanders. The group out and lift hard down the straightaway. Here comes the 10 of Sanders up to second.
Nice move from Sanders, and he really understood a tactic that you have to understand quickly as a rookie is using the draft and using your moves to sometimes pin your opponents in, and that forced Nick DeGroot to lift as much as he did. Now they're 3 wide down the back stretch into 3.
Sanders able to get to the long side of the 67. Nick DeGroot trying to line it back up. Sanders back to the race lead. Now 3 wide for the race lead. DeGroot all the way to the outside groove. Woodson loses ground at the bottom of the racetrack. Sanders holds on to the middle.
Nice move there from Nick DeGroot, and you see him just chop down in front of Cody Wenzen, taking advantage of that little bit of draft that he would have gotten there from Sanders. And I think Sanders and DeGroot might want to start working together, see if they can build a little bit of a gap here. They've got a good 7/10 this trio back to Craig Forsyth and George Anzaldo. If they can break away, it could go a long way to getting Gavin Sanders towards victory lane here.
Getting Archie Bargy in the second grouping. Tyler Graff making it 3 wide along the outside, but plenty of action to continue. Under 65 laps to go. You're watching RaceSpotTV and ESTV for coverage of the Gomez Sim Industries Championship 300 presented by Butt Kicker.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series in the Gomez and Ministries Championship 300, presented by Butt Kicker. For those just tuning in, it has been a blender of a championship finale. Joe Branch involved in the big one earlier tonight, currently 26th and currently out of the race. Matt Taylor, the points leader, entering tonight, 12th on the racetrack. He looks to try and control his destiny and close things out within the final 60 laps here from Fontana, California. Justin Prince alongside Andrew Kinsella with our producer Arjuna Kankipati, and right now the main pack, 1.8 seconds separate the top 16. Nick DeGroot in control of the field currently, up 31 spots after his spin in qualifying.
Things are starting to heat up here, Justin. You can see the drivers are starting to get a little bit more desperate. The conditions are getting better. The track has more grip now that we've run almost 100 laps. The track temps come down a little bit, and everybody's getting just a little bit braver, and it's causing some chaos.
Amongst those making some brave moves, we've seen Gabe Wood try and slice and dice. A lot of brave moves from Tyler Graff. He's battling amongst the top three. Remember Graff's momentum a couple months ago when he started jumping into the car and qualifying well. A lot of these drivers want a shot to close out the season in HyperX victory lane, and they've made it clear.
They absolutely have, and don't forget this is a Triple Crown race, so we do have a little bit of extra prizes on the line here. And of course the double points as well, so it's definitely a little bit extra incentive for these drivers to be racing a little bit harder than usual today. And now that the championship has basically been decided, I think the gloves are off with all of these drivers. They're not taking it easy. They're turning up the wick, and it is quickly raising the temperature here.
Something's happened to Mark Cohn in the 39, who was making a one-off tonight. He ended up just slamming the wall from 19th with contact with Samuel Ryman. We stay green, but the Watchman is now out of the race.
Disappointing end to the night for Mark Cohn there. I think it was just a little bit of miscommunication here. Not sure exactly what was going on. It looks like Ryman just started to come up the track, and he was clear for a second, but then he wasn't clear anymore, and Cohn just spins it down into pit lane. We are lucky to stay green there.
That brings us down to 20 cars remaining on the lead lap. Traveling along the last of those drivers with significant damage, keeping by 1.3 seconds off the pace. Up at the front now, Gabe Wood. Here comes his pal, Nick DeGroot.
These two have worked their way up through this field. They started very near the back and have just systematically worked their way to the front, and they've really started to take a stranglehold on the top of this field. We've seen Nick DeGroot basically since the last round of pit stops has really just found himself at home at the front of this field. But Tyler Graff, he's starting to move towards the front, and look who's back through all of the chaos. Matt Taylor is back in this leading pack, and he's knocking on the door of the top 10 now.
Trying to work around still, Matt Taylor. He wants a shot to close out the season with another victory, you'd have to think.
Absolutely.
He's been running in the teens most of the night, though.
Yeah, there's no better way to crown yourself a champion, but then to take the win at the same time. It just is sort of the exclamation point, the icing on the cake of the season. So Matt Taylor will certainly be hungry now that he knows that he's not in any danger of losing the championship.
Indeed, here comes Gabe Wood again for the race lead. You see Taylor along the outside line, trying to hold out James Watson. There's a look up towards the front. Tyler Graff up to third spot. Here comes the Swamp Trap, down to 50 laps to go here for the season.
I'd say here comes crunch time, but these drivers have already been driving like it's been crunch time for a number of laps here. So I'm just holding my breath at this point, Justin, because I can only imagine that the aggression is going to keep going up and up as we get closer and closer to the end of this race.
Another swap up of the point, and keep in mind when it comes to Gabe Wood, always keeps things busy when it comes to these types of nights, runs a lot of double duty when it comes to Monday night racing competition with various different cars. Always known as a jack of all trades when it comes to the railroad and the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I think if you're Gabe Wood, you want this and want this bad, based on his year.
Oh, absolutely. If he could get a win here today, it would go a long way to undoing all the ills that he's suffered over the course of the season. And that's true of a number of drivers up in this leading pack here. Nick DeGroot has had a hard season. Gavin Sanders has been so unlucky, even though he was finally able to pull out a win. Michael Goodman is another driver who's had one win, but has not had the results that his running position has really dictated he should. Basically, throughout this top 10 is a number of drivers who are just looking to break through here.
But it's going to come down as well partly to the execution of the final stop. You'd have to think 21 laps into the stint right now. How do you play this is the huge question. They do have some traffic up the road. That traffic being Trevor Malone potentially to deal with.
I think the big thing here is just surviving until we get to that final stop. We're coming up close, but it's not there yet. And it's all about figuring out where you are once you get through that final stop is my experience here. It's so difficult to say what you should be doing at this point other than getting as far up the field and as close to the front as you can to put yourself in a position where if you do make a mistake, it's not going to cost you the lead draft, because you need to come out of that last stop in the lead draft if we're going under green flag pit stops.
Also amongst those inside the top 10, and our shout out to give to James Watson, who's had some struggles. He's up 21 spots with his move with the 20 car for 10th spot. And Watson's also been bounced around a fair bit. Traffic now to deal with though. Trevor Malone now up to be lapped within 10 car lengths.
Of course, Malone has had a number of issues throughout the course of this event now with that secondary spin that he had. And so he's just out there trying to stay out of the way, and he does a good job staying high through 1 and 2, and most of the lead pack has gotten around him.
Driver who it's really not worked out for strategy-wise too, Cody Wenson, who led laps early on in this run. He is 19th, 9 seconds back. He's lost the pack as well.
Yeah, and I suspect that Wenson has a little bit of damage there because he's dropped back an awful long way. The only other option would be he has to save some extra fuel compared to some of these other drivers, and maybe he's trying to do it that way to make
trouble,
sure.
Forsyth! He hits the apron coming out of turn 2. From 5th position, he holds on to it.
Big moment for Forsyth. Does a really good job to hold it there, Justin.
Ricky Harden able to give him some space. And some congratulations on the major save in the radio. Look how low he goes.
Yeah, the pants got a little bit brown there from that one, I think, Justin. He put it right on that apron, and it's just a matter of inches. He's just maybe 2-3 inches too low, and it sucks him down there. And you can see just how much momentum he loses. He's lost a good 5 or 7 positions with that one small mistake.
Let's change things up a little bit in the heart of this pack. Here comes Graf for the slider for second.
Yeah, the battle is heating up at the front of the field. Look at George Anzaldo in the third lane. He's trying to announce his presence. So is Michael Goodman on the inside.
Gabe Wood now boxed in and turned by Anzaldo. Here comes the run for the race lead. Graf has to pull off the block. Here comes DeGroot back alongside.
And Nick DeGroot does not want to let go of the lead of this race. There have been laps and times where he's been relinquishing the lead, but he quickly regains it, and he's looking real strong here as we get in the last round of pit stops.
Howard Graf, though, getting the lead lap that time by his first lead lap of the evening. Michael Goodman has also very quietly been in this conversation the whole night. Remember, Goodman broke through just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Goodman finally tasted victory in the Speedway Series after so many poles, and he's looking real strong here. It's amazing what a win can do for your confidence. It really does it's like a shot in the arm, and Gavin Sanders is another one in a similar vein. But look at that number 8 car in the middle of your screen there. He has announced himself on the scene in 6th position now.
He's in the heart of the conversation. Gabe Wood with another run though to the outside. Side by side for the race lead. Raf going all the way to the 3rd line. Nick DeGroot gets the pole. Raf going for the crossover out of 4.
And Grab and Groot have started to do a little bit of swap drafting, and it's allowed them to get a little bit of a gap going here to Gavin Sanders in 3rd and Michael Goodman, because they've been fighting just a little bit. And they've got to be really careful here, because if you get a 5 or 6/10 separation going into the pit stops, that could be all you need. If you can nail your pit in, nail your pit out, you could find yourself a second or 2 in front of your competitors when you get fully cycled through here.
Looking at Zenzotto trying to hold off 5th position. Craig Forsyth trying to use the bottom. That spooks the 6 car out a little bit. Gabe Wood falls on behind Forsyth.
And look just behind them, Jacob Oster is coming into the picture as well. Of course, Oster was the driver that was getting his lap back the hard way before our last caution came out. So he is now knocking on the door of the top 10 and potentially looking at a top 5 finish as well.
Zotto getting shuffled back a little bit as a result of some of the battling. Oster indeed trying the 3rd line to find some clean air. Still has Brendan Lichtenberg and Alexis Newsom up on the box for tonight in the 9. Here comes Jacob on the outside, passing Gabe Wood.
Of course, you'll recognize both those names from the I-5G contingent. And of course, Alexis Newsom, your defending series champion. She will be champion no more. Matt Taylor will take that crown from her. But right now, she's helping Jacob Oster, and Oster is looking real strong here. He's not just content with the top 10, he's looking at a top 5 here pretty soon.
Zotto back up to 5th. The thing is, though, with all the shuffling, they've nearly lost a full second to your top 4. The thing is, with the top 4, they're kind of still blocking like crazy with the swap draft as well. So how do you play this out if you're now in these cars?
I think that you need to make sure that you get 2 cars at the front of the second pack here that really understand how to swap. One of the knocks on George Anzaldo is sometimes he is a little bit tenacious when it comes to defending his position and fighting for every position rather than working with the other drivers around him. So I think if Oster and Forsyth can start to get hooked up here a little bit, they can quickly reel this gap back in, but they have to do it quickly or else they risk losing too much time here, and they'll go into this round of pit stops at quite the deficit.
For some reason, the one thing that comes to mind in terms of that tenacity you're talking about with Zotto, the 5 wide for the race lead in the Retro Series last year at Twin Ring will take, if you remember the 6 wide incidents, that race. He was amongst those who wrecked for the race lead, remember, battling hard.
Yeah, Anzaldo is not one to give an inch in any sort of battle. He will be very concentrated on what's going on around him, sometimes to the detriment of losing the entire picture of the race and what needs to happen. But on the flip side, when it all comes together and when he's in the right position, he is definitely one of those drivers who will put up a strong fight. And if he finds himself in the right position at the end of the race, look for him to definitely make a move.
Coming up to the pit stop window, 33 to go. Raff and DeGroot still swap drafting. Sanders and Goodman also still in the main group. Now this is the money stop coming. Cody Wenson has already stopped and is up the road to be lapped.
Yeah, and we're quickly getting into this time, aren't we, Justin? And it's a question of who's going to blink first, because you know that whenever one driver blinks, a lot of the rest of the drivers in this top 10 are going to have to follow as well, because there is a little bit of a pace advantage to have those fresher tires. Even if they don't have the draft, the lap times have come down 2-3 tenths of a second a lap, so you really can't afford to not be down when the leader comes down pit lane.
Bit of a drift down this time. DeGroot able to get all the way to the edge of the first seam. Gonna get the swap down. Goodman trying to fall behind them. Oster is up to 5th position. The 9 is flying. Here comes Forsyth for the swap.
And Oster and Forsyth are trying to work together again. They're just out of the drafting range of Michael Goodman. if they keep working together, they can catch him, but it looks like Anzaldo really used that draft, and he's breaking up that draft, swapping again.
Pit window coming in, Tyler Graff, Nick DeGroot, several drivers elected to duck in this time by... This is the money stop to determine the winner of this race. How will this entry fare out? Oh, and a big slide, and a big sin! A spin for Tyler Graff! Graff spins, and as Gabe Wood drives around the outside, Jacob Ulster also avoids. Gabe Wood able to avoid the incident. 2 is spins around the entry. Tyler Graff out of contention.
Wow, that was a huge mistake there from Tyler Graff. He just got in there too hot, never got the car settled after he made that transition, and around it went. And did Jacob Oster did Nick DeGroot get the car slowed down? Yes, he did. Okay, it was an 8.7 second stop for Nick DeGroot, so that was another concern, is when you have to avoid a car like that, sometimes you can't get the car slowed down.
There's a look at the replay, and you see the send from DeGroot in the first place, but the spin goes around on the transition. Then you have Ryman do this.
A little bit of a sympathy spin there from Ryman. He came in really, really hot here. I don't know if he was actually trying to get on the pit lane there. He just lost it a little bit on his own.
No more front wing for Ryman. Wing change for the 59. He's amongst those now, laps down. Michael Goodman amongst those coming in this time by near contact for Taylor. And there's another spin. It's Mike Rigney.
Yeah, all of these drivers, they know that this is the money stop, and they're trying to get every inch they could. Rigney, just another small mistake under braking there, and it nearly cost Matt Taylor. But right now, Rob Malechka should be coming down pit lane with Harden and Fowler, and that should be the whole rest of the stop. So look at how fast Mike Rigney came down there. He definitely missed his braking point.
Technically, he didn't speed because he stopped in the first sector. More pit stops. Malechka to third amongst them. Ricky Hart and Chris Fowler in this time. No speeding penalties that time by Goodman. Already completed a service. Gavin Sanders, the next driver behind him.
Look at how far ahead Michael Goodman and Gavin Sanders are compared to the rest of them. So this has fractured up that leading group a fair bit. And if Gavin Sanders and Michael Goodman can start working together, they could really get some nice gap to the rest of this leading pack.
Nick DeGroot, George Anzaldo able to work together off the pit lane as well. So a lot of communication, and there's the swap draft with the 10 of Sanders. Already Malechka to the third, Hart and Fowler. They're coming off the pit lane a fair bit back of your top 2.
Yeah, Malechka, I think, will have the draft of the leading duo, and that's going to bridge it back all the way to some of the drivers who maybe lost out just a little bit, but it's going to be a close thing. I think Malechka and Harden will have it. Now they're starting to fight together, and that's going to be disaster for their hopes of maintaining that draft.
Greg Forsyth, by the way, lost a lap in that pit cycle with some of the craziness, so he is now at the tail end of the lead lap in 18th. Everybody else trying to sort themselves out here. George Anzaldo amongst those starting to fight. This is behind Malechka to the third. DeGroot gives up the top spot. There's the swap drop between the top 2 positions on the racetrack. A 1.3 second buffer.
And it's just outside of draft range. The second pack really needs to sort themselves out and find a way to swap to get up there. Because the other thing is, with the car of Craig Forsyth right in front of Sanders and Goodman, that's going to give them the draft here for a little bit. That's going to allow them to get this gap out even further. So if they can get it out to 1.6, 1.7 here, I don't know that this other pack can really catch them.
Yeah, that's going to be the major thing right now. And plus, they have that chance to pick up Forsyth as the third car with the draft. Here's a look at the second group with the swap. A little bit now under 1.3 seconds back of the race leader. Nick DeGroot on the bottom. Middle from Malechka to the third. And Zoto tucks back in line with Fowler and Harden.
And this group of 5 here could be maybe 6 or 7 with Oster, Taylor, and Watson joining as well, but they're a little bit off the back as well. And with only 24 laps to go, Justin, all of these drivers have got to sort themselves out really quickly here. This group, though, did gain about 0.2 of a second on that last lap now that Groot and Malechka are at the front of this group and swapping.
Gap is down to nearly a second. Look at the track map and you see some of the separation building up amongst this racetrack. Malechka third now swaps up to third spot. Down to a 1 second buffer between he and Sanders.
Yeah, Malechka really understands how to swap draft effectively here at Auto Club Speedway, especially as the driver on the front straightaway. He's not forcing the other driver to come around the outside. He's giving him the inside, and it's really allowing a lot of speed to be built up here. So he's doing a great job dragging up this second pack, and we're about to have the 7-car battle for the win here.
Top two have picked up the draft now with a 72. Malechka third is within about the 1 second buffer. No swap this time coming. Now there's the swap rather. And Zono electing to let it go. Down to 20 to go this upcoming time by Nick DeGroot and Robert Malechka III working together to close up the gap. Sanders and Goodman following the tire tracks of Forsyth up the road.
Now, the one downside for DeGroot and Malechka is doing this swap drafting really does abuse your tires a little bit, so they're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage compared to all the other drivers in this leading pack if they can ever get back up to the back of the two in front of Sanders and Goodman. Right now, though, Sanders isn't able to clear Forsyth here, so this is disastrous for them. They need to find a way to get around Forsyth, but of course Forsyth wants to stay on the lead lap right now.
Yeah, this has cost them another 1/10 of a second in the midst of trying to sort this out. Does Michael Goodman take advantage? He does. He tries to go back to the race lead. Goodman dives underneath, picks up Forsyth's draft, and now he pulls up to the race lead. But the damage is done. The 4 cars behind them, the 5 in fact behind them, are now within 7/10.
And Forsyth is stubbornly running the bottom of the racetrack, and it doesn't look like either Sanders or Goodman can really get underneath him. Goodman tries to go to the inside, doesn't do it, and now he's going to try to side draft him down the back straightaway here. I think Goodman might just have a nose in front of him by the corner, but I don't think that he's going to be able to clear him because Forsyth has that shorter distance around.
This is the prerogative, keep in mind, for Forsyth to have a chance on the lead lap after a disastrous pit sequence. Now it's down to about 7-8 car lengths between second and third. DeGroot single files lining up in front of Malechka III. Now is in the draft of Sanders.
Now the 5 cars have now caught up to the 2, and we have a 7-car breakaway for the lead of this race. 18 laps to go here. It is all still to play for.
Forsyth still not backing down. DeGroot a huge send with the aero wash nearly to the wall.
And now they're 3 wide with Forsyth and Sanders and Goodman. Goodman backs out of it on the outside, but they're desperate to find a way around that number 27 car.
DeGroot forced a lift. He gets underneath Goodman. Sanders trying to clear by the lap car. Nick DeGroot trying to fall behind the 10 of Sanders. Up to second goes DeGroot, all the way to the rear wing. Coming to 17 laps to go. Here comes Malechka III to the outside as Enzono sends it.
And Malechka's just hanging out on the outside here, just hoping and praying that no disaster happens in front. But we're 3 wide again at the front of this pack. And this is really starting to become a dicey situation here. We got a number of drivers doing a little bit different things. Some drivers trying to be patient, some drivers trying to be aggressive, and that's when disaster can strike.
3 wide now, Forsyth back to the bottom. DeGroot tries to go up top. Sanders holds on to the middle. Goodman tries to line up behind. DeGroot tries to follow the lines. He gets boxed in behind Forsyth. Down to the final 15 laps of the season as Enzono launches it.
Enzaldo's really liking that high line. It's giving him some nice clean air. It's allowing him to keep the tires underneath them really well. So I like what Enzaldo's doing here. He's really positioning himself well, but we still have 15 laps to go and a lot can change in that time.
Big lift from DeGroot going into turn 3. Enzono all the way up to the front for a fly. DeGroot slides up nearly to the side pod. Chris Fowler now tries to fall behind. Fowler loses ground. Here comes Goodman once again. DeGroot with a big run and take it 3 wide once again with the lap car.
Oh, and it's so tight there. Sanders knows that he has to stay as tight to Craig Forsyth as he can in order to try and get the side draft, try to get whatever advantages he can. Meanwhile, De Groot makes it 3 wide into 3.
De Groot trying to make the outside groove work. Forced to duck back down to the second line. Does he try and duck behind Sanders? Now he tries to go to the outside again. Near contact a couple times. Lap traffic is approaching. They are approaching Trevor Malone again.
And you can really see that Nick De Groot understands what momentum can do at a track like this. You can see him taking a really wide line into the corners and then ducking down and really using that draft and really getting some momentum going. He's been close at the line a number of times, but he just hasn't quite gotten around Sanders. But it's only a matter of time before this really starts to pay off for De Groot.
Trevor Malone is seen on the apron, led by the race leaders. Down to the final 12 laps, 3 wide yet again. De Groot and Sanders battling for the race win. Michael Goodman works on the bottom of the racetrack. Chris Fowler tries to work all the way to the top groove. Here comes Ricky Harden now to join the party.
And look at the run that De Groot has, but again, he just doesn't have anywhere to go on that outside lane. But I'm really intrigued by that green and blue car right now. Chris Fowler, he's just sort of patiently biding his time, but he's definitely watching and learning and seeing what works and what doesn't.
10 to go, next time by. Here's a look from Ricky Harden. Can he join the fray in the right time? And Zotto slides up Nick De Groot, taking 3 wide now with Fowler. Sanders now with a race lead, trying to get alongside Forsyth once again.
Really tough stuff here. You really have to be thinking your moves through like 10 corners in advance here. De Groot got a little bit caught out. Now he's on the bottom of the racetrack, and I don't really know where he's going to go. But I think that at this point, Craig Forsyth really needs to consider giving up the ghost here. He's put in a good battle to try and stay there, but he's really starting to disrupt the battle for the lead of this race.
You see him there, Matt Taylor, Jacob Ulster, James Watson have joined into the pack under 10 laps to go. Forsyth still not giving up the ghost. Forsyth still holding on to the bottom in front of Sanders. Fowler now up to 3rd spot, trying to build up the run on Goodman.
De Groot and Anzaldo got very close on the front straightaway there. There was a near disaster right in front of Rob Malechka. But it's some really dicey stuff here. Yeah, you're right on the edge of your seat, aren't you, Justin?
2 by 2, make it 3 wide again. Here comes Chris Fowler to the outside for the race lead. Harden falls on behind. Goodman loses ground at the bottom.
Yeah, we saw De Groot trying this a number of times, and he wasn't successful, but maybe Fowler has preserved his tires just enough to make this work. He's got to find a way to get the momentum up, though, as De Groot is even trying to make it 4 wide now.
Something's got to give. Goodman nearly drifts up into Fowler. Sanders still cannot clear by Forsyth. Fowler back to the outside. Goodman rides underneath the first seam. Nick De Groot tries to build back up the run. He washes up the track again. Sanders nearly washes up the track into Fowler.
Sanders is absolutely doing exactly what he needs to do here. He's staying right on the outside of Craig Forsyth, not allowing anyone to really get a good run going, not allowing anyone to have that bottom lane, and he's just perfectly running here. I don't know that if he keeps this up, anyone is going to be able to mount a proper charge here.
Fowler's trying another charge, though. Able to keep it alongside Sanders this time. Sanders losing ground. Fowler starting to get the pull. 6 to go. Sanders leads to the stripe. Goodman, big checkup. Here comes Ricky Harden. He thinks near 4 wide as Goodman gets squished.
Oh my, 3 wide, 3 deep here as Matt Taylor, Jacob Oster have truly joined the fray. Taylor to the inside of George Anzaldo. He's looking at a top 5 and maybe more here now.
3 wide still. Forsyth still hugging the bottom. Coming up to 5 laps to go on the season. Fowler loses ground again up top. Sanders trying to get it done in the middle. Goodman tries to follow along. Here comes Malechka to 3rd to take it 4 wide for the race lead.
What a move there from Malechka. He really got checked up out of 4 by Ricky Harden, kept his foot in it somehow, and then really got the momentum going. Tried to take it 4 wide. It's not going to work for him right now. He's basically got nowhere to go, but he was sitting there preserving his tires for the last 20 laps. Now it's go time for the 91 of Rob Malechka.
Can he come in and walk away with the victory to close out the year? Fowler again to run. Here comes Malechka to third. Next time around, reaches the point of no return here at Fontana. 4 wide still. Forsyth hugs the bottom. Sanders up the middle. Fowler trying to get the run as Malechka to third builds it back up.
We're still 4 wide down the back straightaway. No one willing to give an inch. This is exciting racing here, Justin.
Forsyth is not backing out of this fight. Coming up to 3 laps to go in the season. Fowler builds up the run. He's got the run. Sanders leads to the stripe. Near contact with Sanders. Malechka to third again. Back to the outside. Here comes Taylor to join the party.
And I'm sorry, but Forsyth needs to get out of here right now. We're past the point of no return. If a caution comes out, it doesn't matter because he's going to finish where he's going to finish. He needs to get out of here and let these leaders fight.
Near contact with Malechka to third. Forsyth still not showing a signal to peel off. Coming at 2 laps to go. Fowler with the run. Chris Fowler nearly takes the lead to the stripe. He does take it up the stripe.
So it can be done, but he has to hit this perfectly. And meanwhile, Rob Malechka is trying to get a run going as well. And man, I don't know who to bet on, but right now I think Gavin Sanders is really in the best spot here.
Sanders has been hugging that middle to bottom line most of this fight. Can he hold on as he takes the race lead coming to the white flag? Final time around of the Gomez Sim Industries Championship 300 presented by Butt Kicker. 4 wide again as Malechka to third tries to squeeze.
Oh, it's so tight as Anzaldo nearly hits the apron and drifts up into Hart, and that causes a checkup. It's now down to three drivers. Sanders and Fowler nearly get together here.
Sanders clears by Forsyth. Here comes the run for the win. Fowler with the run to the outside. Here comes Malechka to third. He sends it 3 wide. They crash behind him. At the stripe, it's Gavin Sanders who wins the Gomez Sim Industries Championship 300 presented by Butt Kicker.
Wow, what a finish that was, Justin, and what a drive there from Gavin Sanders. He did exactly what he needed to do. That was just perfectly done. He got clear of Fowler into 3, kept his foot in it, and just barely cleared Robert Malechka there as they were wrecking behind him. I think Craig Forsyth drifted up into the path of some of the other drivers once he got that aero wash.
What a finish to the season, and what a night if you're Gavin Sanders. He comes away with the victory here at Auto Club Speedway. And talk about a fight to get this job done tonight. He had the track position all night. He had the lines. He just had to hold off the phenomenal finish.
Absolutely incredible. And one of the drivers caught up in that last lap melee was Matt Taylor. So he will finish down in 17th position after a really strong run all the way back into that spot. So, wow.
Look there. Taylor unofficially the champion, even with the crash in the infield for some of the factory back cars he tangled up with. So much aero wash.
Yeah, just a face full of aero wash for a couple of drivers there, and disaster on the final lap for a number of really strong drivers. Probably didn't get the finish that they really deserved in this race, but I'll tell you what, there is no more deserving winner here tonight than Gavin Sanders. He did exactly what he needed to do on that finish, drove the perfect race for the final stint there. Really well done from that number 10 machine.
The crazy finish ends off what has been a phenomenal campaign. Matt Taylor already starting off some of the celebrations for his championship competitors. Bad luck tonight. Let's take a look at your unofficial race results brought to you by SimRace247.com. The difference, 0.013 seconds between Sanders and Malechka the third. Fowler, Goodman, and Zono the top 5. Then Watson, DeGroot, Hyson short and made the top 10. 11th spot tonight in the craziness. Gabe Wood, 4.5 seconds back. Tyler Graf, after his spin, 10 seconds back in 12th. Rigney, Oster Harden, amongst those involved in the late race fireworks. Then, Ricky Harden, Samuel Ryman at the tail end of the lead lap. Matt Taylor did not finish the race. Still, unofficially, a title. 17th, good enough for him as Craig Forsyth, Trevor Malone, Cody Wenson, the top 20. 21st spot tonight goes Mark Cohn, Hugo Gallas 22nd, Tony Schauman, Gary Gonzo, Shane Coogan, Joe Branch, Gonzalez Nunez, Paul Jenkins, Creighton Carter, and Brian Beer, the top 30. Rest of the running order: Joe Hasser, Dean Ball, Andrew Wood, Ron Hacker, and Jim Herrick. Rounding out of tonight's grid. Fast lap going to Craig Forsyth. He did it on lap 2. With that brings us into our post-race coverage here at iRacing's Virtual Auto Club Speedway, the HyperX post-race show. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear with luxury ultra-comfortable cloud-mounted gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. Drivers currently working their way towards the podium. Part of the celebrations here tonight. It was an eventful one, to say the very least. Andrew, in this one.
It absolutely was. That race was not what we were expecting when we got into this race, was it, Justin? It was action-packed throughout. There was that big calamity that happened about a third of the way to this race that took out the battle for the championship, but we had an exciting finish here. It was absolutely incredible. 4 wide action. We had a lapped car stubbornly staying on that inside line, and we had runs from various drivers throughout that top 10. It was incredible to watch.
And that was a thrilling finish to this one. See them finally able to clear by Forsyth, and then as they crash hard behind, 3 wide, Sanders gets it down up the middle.
And Malechka with the surprise to the inside. I think Sanders wasn't quite counting on that, and he just had to hope that he had the momentum there. And I think that transition to the bottom just caused Malechka to bobble just a little bit, and it cost him a shot at the win.
Take a look one more time. There's Forsyth on the backup. Comes down to those top 3. Malechka to third. Can't send it to the apron there. Tried it.
It was so close. It was so close for Malechka, but in the end, Sanders did exactly what he needed to do, and it was great.
It was a great finish to close out the campaign. Lots to discuss when it comes to our post-race coverage here from iRacing's Virtual Auto Club Speedway. Gavin, you're up first, and you get the job done. 51 laps led out of the 150. You do it in a thriller.
Yeah, that was quite the race at the end there. I mean, there was cars on cars on cars, and it was kind of like that for most of the race, besides when everybody decided that they wanted to save fuel. But I mean, I can't think. I don't even know. You know, it's just so cool to win one of these. I don't think these pack style races are necessarily my strength, but it's really nice to get one, especially on this stage. So big thank you to Team Raceverse. Appreciate everything they do for iRacing IndyCar and 4D Raceware as well. All these guys, they make it happen, and it was just incredible today.
How would you describe those nerves in those closing stages, especially knowing the lap traffic playing a bit of a factor, yes, in Forsyth, but you also have at least 4, 5, 6 different drivers trying to find a way around 4 wide at some points?
Yeah, no, it was definitely just down to try and hold the shortest distance around the racetrack you can, pending where other cars are. And I mean, I completely understand where the lap cars' position is, right? Everybody's racing for something, and I get it. So it was definitely, it made it a little bit more, I'd say, tricky to overtake. So I'm not necessarily me complaining, but yeah, it was definitely an added factor. And I think there could have even potentially been more of a shakeup ending if it wasn't too wide there for the past 20 laps or so, to all the way to the end.
You finished off the season strong. What's the hope to try and carry the momentum forward? What's it going to take to keep up the momentum that you started to build up in the past few months?
Yeah, I think it's just down to consistency, lots of good time on practicing and getting ready for these events, and I think I'm finally starting to pick up on some of the racecraft pointers and not just kind of putting myself into bad positions. So if we can keep that up, I think moving into next year, we're definitely a contender.
Gavin Sanders coming away with the race victory here tonight. He gets it done. The Gomez Sim Industries Championship 300 presented by Butt Kicker. Robert Mochko, third, a one-off start tonight. You almost get the job done. How would you describe your perspective of the finish?
Very chaotic. Firstly, shout out to everyone for keeping it clean there until really the last corner, because that was very close, very tense racing in a car that's not really forgiving when you're that close to one another. But firstly, congrats to Matt on the championship. It's unfortunate we couldn't get Joe up there, but it just wasn't really his day. But yeah, kind of that last run there, just kind of buying my time, waiting for everyone to kind of use up their tires, because people were really pushing there at the start of that last run, and just waited for people's tires to kind of fall off, and then I tried to pounce and was one position too short. But congrats to Gavin on the win. He drove a really good race.
Let's say, what did you need to do differently to be able to break through for the victory there?
Honestly, just remember the apron is an option. I kind of remembered, but not really, because I was expecting Gavin to go low there, right to the apron right away, but he didn't. So that kind of surprised me and ruined my run. It would have probably been a photo finish. I mean, we're probably looking really close to a tie if I don't wait a bit. But yeah, like I said, Gavin drove a really good race and did what he had to do to win there.
Well, congratulations to the Podium once again to close out the season in this one-off.
Yep, thank you, Justin.
That's Robert Mochko III coming away in second place tonight. What was a thriller here in this end of the campaign. Lots still to come when it comes to awards, as many drivers have a chance to add to their trophy cases in what was an eventful night overall when it came to the racing here to end off the season here in the Gomez Sim Industries Championship 300, presented by Butt Kicker in this one. Chance to speak with those drivers amongst the honors in just the next moment or so. What was a competitive campaign here in 2022. And as the drivers get themselves all situated and ready for the championship celebrations, points tabulations just about finished amongst the race control for tonight. We're just about all set to go to start our award ceremony and award show for the Speedway Series. To start things off, it's time to crown a champion. Presenting the 2022 season champion, presented by Moser Racing, George Anzaldo. George.
What a long, hard-fought season. 2022 has been another fantastic year, and we are very excited here to crown our champion tonight. Our 2022 season champion, presented by Moser Racing, goes to Matt Taylor. Congratulations, Matt. What a fantastic run.
Thank you, George. I can exhale, I guess. Yeah, just a really crazy night, making a huge mistake on pit road, and then Branch getting caught up in a massive wreck that I know we were all worried about, but just crazy.
Indeed. Also standing by for our next award, the Driver of the Year, presented by Moser Racing, also presented by admin George Anzaldo.
Thank you. The Driver of the Year award is a special recognition to one of Lionheart's very best. It is given to someone who has had a positive impact on the league and its members both on and off the track. Someone who has a strong competitive drive but also displays sportsmanship and is a great community member. It's my pleasure to award the 2022 Driver of the Year award presented by Mazda Racing to Matt Taylor. Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you, George. That's awesome. It's good to get one back, but I really appreciate everything you guys do. We've got 2 more series to finish up, which is awesome. But yeah, this is special. Thank you.
It's been great having you part of the league, Matt. Congratulations.
Well deserved for Matt Taylor, a championship and a Driver of the Year award. Now, next award is standing by. It's the Rookie of the Year presented by Butt Kicker, with drops factored in. Presenting the award is admin Chris Fowler. Chris.
Yes, sir.
Your honor to present the Rookie of the Year presented by Butt Kicker.
Yes, sir. Rookie of the Year this year goes to Shane Coogan with Race vs. Sunset. Congratulations, Shane Coogan, on Rookie of the Year, man. Great season.
Hey, thank you guys. Really appreciate that. It's wow, it feels amazing to not only have a chance to compete, against some of the best here, but also to bring this one home, for the team. Really appreciate the Race First guys and them giving me a shout out and giving me a chance to come race with you all. So it's been a great season. I think we could all say there's a few races that maybe got away from us, or didn't go the way we planned, but I kind of knew early on I had a shot to potentially do well and score some points. So this became the goal pretty early on, especially after Indy. And great fight there with Andrew Wood. We were just chatting, and it was great racing him and a lot of these other guys up front this season. So shout out to the great league, Lionheart, all the sponsors involved and all the great drivers. Really appreciate what you guys do here.
Once again, that's Shane Coogan, Rookie of the Year presented by Butt Kicker. Now, to present the Team Championship presented by HyperX, once again, is presenting admin Chris Fowler.
Yes, our Team Championship presented by HyperX. It's been an amazing season for these guys once again. Power Slide Motorsports with the Team Championship. Congratulations, guys. Awesome season. You guys just been dominant all season long. Great job.
Thank you much, Chris, and thanks, George, and all the admins. We had a few rough patches throughout the season. A couple of us not being able to race a few times here and there, but we had a really strong finish the last couple of races, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was an eventful night for you, Tony, especially with some of the incidents. How would you describe the season finale for your team up towards the front early?
Yeah, at the start of the race, our goal was to get Joe up as high as possible for the overall championship. But when he got knocked out, that obviously changed. So then we just kind of was a free-for-all, and then then I got caught up in that incident. So then we just focused on Goodman.
Well, congratulations once again to your respective team.
Thank you much.
Again, the Team Championship presented by HyperX. Next up in the order is the Cleanest Driver Award presented by Gomez Sim Industry, should say. The presenting admin for this award is the Watchman, Mark Cohn.
The Cleanest Driver of the Year award. Obviously, it's the guy that makes the least mistakes, has the least wrecks, and this year, with a whopping 1.35 incidents per race, this award goes to the number 11 of Big Joe Hasser. Congratulations to Joe. What an amazing achievement.
Once again, congratulations to Joe Hasser. We've seen how quick he was tonight, going from the back to the front in the span of 14 laps and leading much of the way tonight. Next up is the Ironman Award, presented by Next Level Racing. That award also presented by the presenting admin, Mark Cohn.
The Ironman Award, the one that goes the most miles in a season. And the one that has consistently done this is Mr. Mike Rigney. Mike, congratulations. What a fantastic job this season.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it very much. It was a great season. A lot of clean racing, which is typical for Lionheart races. I'm just glad to be a part of it. I wanted to get as many clean laps as I could in and finish in the top 10, top 5s as much as I could, just to have a good, clean, consistent season. And I was okay. And I'm glad I won the award because I put a lot of time and effort into the setups, and I appreciate it. I want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Kinsella for all the great, wonderful setups we've had throughout all 3 series across the board. They've been wonderful setups, and Andrew's done a bang-up job, and we appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
I believe that's a trigger for you to say thank you, Andrew.
I appreciate it, and but Mike knows we've had a conversation about this, but I appreciate the recognition, Mike.
Once again, apologies there. The Ironman Award, once again presented by Next Level Racing. One more award on the docket, the Turning Point Award, presented by Graphics. Presenting of this award is by Tyler Graff. Tyler?
Hey, so the Turning Point Award goes to the driver with the biggest change from the midpoint of the season to the end, the driver that turned their season around the best. And they get that awesome prize of a HyperX Quadcast S, which is an awesome microphone. The winner of this award went up 11 spots in the points from the midpoint to the end. And that driver is Tony Schowen.
Thanks, Tyler, and thanks, HyperX, for the mic. Yeah, I've kind of been in contention for this award over the few years, and at the beginning of this season, I was like, the way it started, I was like, well, I got a good chance of getting this one because I think I had 4 DNFs right away at the beginning of the season. So I just figured if I stuck to it, I'd have a decent chance to take the award. So I appreciate it.
Once again, the Turning Point Award presented by Graphics Esports. On that note, time to turn things over to the presenting admin, George Anzotto, for final thanks for this campaign.
Thanks, Justin. Just would like to thank all of our sponsors for the 2022 season. HyperX is the league sponsor, Mazda Racing as the sponsor of the Speedway Series, Bud Kicker, GSI, Next Level Racing, Graphics Esports, SimRace 247, Extreme Scoring, Prospects by SI, Guys Game and Beer, and finally ESTV and RaceSpotTV for providing all of the amazing coverage all season long. And also big thanks to the fans that have supported us by tuning in to watch the races. We're really excited about 2023, and we can't wait to bring you more exciting races. So thank you again to everyone involved, the admins, the drivers. It's been another great year, so thank you again.
Thank you very much for the time, George, and congratulations on a strong campaign here in the Speedway Series. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for this 2022 campaign for the Lionheart Speedway Series for the Gomez Sim Industries Championship 300. Congratulations to your series champion for 2022, Matt Taylor. He gets the job done at Auto Club, while Gavin Sanders goes to HyperX Victory Lane. For my broadcast partner throughout the season, Andrew Kinsella, for producer Jenna Kankipani, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your off season. Thank you for tuning in from Fontana.